saw work started there to the tune of $4.56 million. Grenada SDA Comprehensive, the contract has been signed, and we expect work will start in July. Bishop's College, we have received no objection on that particular project, has been approved by CDB. The contractor is currently being engaged, and we expect that by end of August, work would start there to the tune of some $10.45 million. Construction has also started in recent times, the Paradise Preschool. That is actually in a new location. Happy Hill Breezan Preschool, also in a new location, and we have work started on the River Sally Preschool Expansion Project. We are in the design phase for 2 new schools, St. Andrew's Anglican Primary School, Grenada Christian Academy. We expect that those designs would be completed by November 2020. Just to inform St. David's Catholic Secondary, we are now finalizing some issues with regards to the lands, and we intend to make a public announcement in that regard very soon. Quick update on laptops and tablets. Thus far, we have on island over 65% of our devices for secondary school, and we continue to work hard amidst the challenges of shipment internationally as it relates to ensuring all of our devices arrive. Just to say that as it relates to distribution, and I'm preempting the question there, we will be making a pronouncement as it relates to the protocol and the procedures redistribution, and I'm sure PS would speak briefly on that as well. Update on summer program. As indicated before, we intend to utilize this period to start some serious work as it relates to support for students who we consider disadvantaged, students who we consider to be at risk, and the Ministry of Education would also be making some pronouncement. But just to speak about private individuals and private schools wishing to do summer programs, according to the release from and permission from the COVID Committee, Cabinet of Grenada approved, we will facilitate summer programs this year. However, every facility must be inspected and approval must be granted by the Ministry of Health before final approval is granted by the Ministry of Education through a certificate that would say you are ready to go. And so we basically want to advise persons out there that you do not proceed without the necessary authority as it relates to summer program, because we do not want to put our students at any additional risk. So it means that persons wishing to proceed must have that inspection conducted to say that you are ready to accommodate students in whatever facility that you intend to use. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. A lot of information for us. We'll go now to Permanent Secretary Kevin Andal for any comments you may have.
Good morning again, and it is a pleasure to be here to bring updates on the Ministry of Education and to update you on what we are doing. My role this morning is really to give you additional details on our e-learning agenda. And the Ministry's e-learning agenda, as I said before and continue to reiterate, is to develop a resilient education system. COVID has forced us to change our approach to education. It has allowed us to look at our system as is and to develop a system that can withstand internal and external shocks, and also to create access for all. Therefore, we approach our educational delivery through a blended approach, face-to-face as well as e-learning. Amidst all of COVID-19 and its limitations and restrictions, we have facilitated meaningful learning, and we have done that through these means. We have developed a robust learning management system in the form of MSTAR, as you have heard it so many times. And we have embarked, as Minister also indicated in her presentation, incremental building of the capacity of the end users to use the system. We had phase 1 training from May to present, whereby we developed the capacity of the end users, teachers, support staff at the ministry, and the e-learning champions. The e-learning champions are the teachers at the schools who advance the agenda of e-learning. We are looking to continue training in September for students and teachers. And we are also embracing in phase 3 continuous training for students, teachers, and parents. And the training that we are going to embark on for parents would be in the form of introductory to MSTAR and learning management system videos and webinars. And details on this would be shortly provided for the general public. As of this week, going into next week, we are going to do what is known as personal development sessions. We have had a number of teachers signing on, excited to expand and to enrich their skills in the use of the MSTAR platforms. The next component of our e-learning initiative is the provision of devices to our end users. And as Minister has indicated, the secondary school devices are here. This is not only, we are not only having devices, but we are having enriched devices, if I should use that term, that has CXC-based ebooks that are interactive. When we hear the devices on the island, sometimes our mind go far and say, when am I going to have my device? When can I come and get it? I would like to outline to you that even though the devices are on island, we have a number of steps that we must follow. Clearance, that is to clear it from the air cargo entity. Configuration, whereby we register every user. Every user, end user, must be registered. And the end users here are teachers as well as students. Now, if you can do the maths and you computate students and teachers, you know we are about in the region of 20 something plus end users. We already collected the data. We have to register every end user on the device and also on the mobile management system. We also have to register every ebook, and that in itself would take not a long period, but it would take us some time to do that. We want to do it right. Remember, we want to do it correctly. After configuration, we're going to have distribution, and that in itself will take some time again. The rule of thumb here is that the devices are going to be ready for consumption or for usage before the start of the new school term. The next component of what we're doing in regards to e-learning is increase to access. We have done that through the MESH project, which provides broadband internet to all schools, and the CASI project, which provides internet access to community points. In regards to the secondary school devices, the ebooks are on the device. Therefore, they can be used offline. So once you have the device, you don't have to have an internet connection to access the ebooks. So that is an added benefit. So even though you're living in an area where you don't have access to internet, you can access your ebook 24/7. When you're in an area with internet access, then you can access any other platform that would enrich the ebooks. We also would like to remind you that MSTAR is web-based and it's zero rated. So you can just have $3 or $2 on your mobile device. Once you can get an internet access, then you can use MSTAR. So in regards to access, the ministry has narrowed the gap in regards to that, because our rule of thumb here is access to all. Now we are going to have challenges. Even in the great US of A, you have persons who really don't have access to internet. But in Grenada, we have a very high penetration rate in regards to internet and mobile access. And we are using that to ensure that our students experience the best form of e-learning that they can experience. We are going to have a separate press engagement on ebooks and the e-platform shortly, and we'll be able to give you more details on the rollout of this project. Last but not least, in regards to the device, is that I want you to remember that the devices also have long battery life. So a student with one charge can use the device for at least a day. And then the next day, you can get it charged to use again. It's an Android device with a very large battery. But remember, even though the battery is large, if the usage is extensive, then there's no device ever created that can last for a week with extensive usage. I would like to say that we have done a tremendous effort in ensuring that the e-learning platform is usable, accessible, and I can also say to you that you have to remember, in every project there would be kinks, there would be areas that needs improvement, but with your input and cooperation, I am assured and confident that we are going to resolve these things. We are a resilient people. One last thing before I leave is that in recent days, the parents of the grade 6 students, they have been making requests for transfers, and they have been accessing online a PDF document for transfer. We have recognized that this format is inadequate, and just as how we responded to everything, we have responded quickly to provide an online form that is editable. Once you enter your information in that form, it goes directly to the exam unit and they will have your data. So let me inform you that the website, and that would be up on our Facebook page shortly, the website to access this is www.weboffice.gov. www.weboffice.gov. The deadline has also been extended to July 17 so that we can accommodate as much parents as possible. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, PS. We do appreciate the website. Can you just go over that for us quickly?
The website is www.weboffice.gov.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And you would have to go to the tab that marks form, the tab form, and tap that tab, and the only form there would be the transfer form. I would like to also say, and it remiss of me not to mention, that the whole of government agenda is to bring as much services online as possible. And this form is the first of its kind in regards to that. And I want to commend the Ministry of ICT for responding so quickly to provide that service. And this would not be the only service at eForms available. Within the next few days, we would be also launching the scholarship application form and other forms related to educational services. So thank you again.
Thank you very much, PS. We do appreciate Mrs. Angela Finley, Chief Education Officer. A few words from you.
Good morning, everyone, members of the team, and members in our audience today. Special good day to everyone. It's my pleasure to be part of this team here before you today to share in all the exciting things that are going on despite the challenges that are provided or created by COVID-19. Okay, and I must commend all members at the ministry, members of staff at the ministry, for the resilience that they have shown and the determination to make things happen in the best possible way for education. Also, I want to commend the persons at the school level, the principals, the teachers, the auxiliary staff, the managers of schools, the denominational boards, the parents, and other community members who are also showing their measure of resilience as collaboration is seen in all efforts to make things better, to keep learning at the fore of what is happening in Grenada, both for teachers and students. And I'm indeed happy to be a part of it. I'm indeed thankful for that measure of resilience that is causing Grenada to stand out as a beacon, as you may say, blazing the trail where others may have failed. And I just want to say thank you to everyone, and I'm excited to be part of a team as we continue to work. Yes, whatever comes before us, we are confident that with continued collaboration, we would remove those obstacles, and we would turn those obstacles into tricycles and all the other things that can carry us forward. Sam, indeed. And bicycles too, and all those things. So I'm really, really happy, and I look forward to what is before us in the days and months ahead.
Mrs. Finley, thank you so much. All right, so we have a strong representation here from the Ministry of Education. We still have with us Mr. John L. Mitchell, Testing and Measurement Officer, and Ms. Gertrude Niles, Adult and Long Life Learning Unit. So I'll go to Mr. Mitchell, and then we'll come to Ms. Niles. And then, of course, media will take your questions.
Let me say pleasant good morning to the team, members of the team, the media, and to you, the listening public. I'm indeed happy to say that the results are out. We know how anxious the parents, the schools, and all stakeholders were when it came to the whole aspect of placement of the students. And you would want to have an appreciation for the amount of work and commitment that had to be put into ensuring that we get this thing right, especially knowing that with the COVID situation, we did not have the whole aspect of doing that external aspect of the CPA, but using our MCT scores together with the CPA internal aspect. So we had to be rather careful and ensure that we get this thing right before we put it out there. So I just want to add congratulations to all the successful candidates. And I'm also happy to hear that statement that Minister would have just made when it comes to ensuring that structures are in place to ensure that those students who are retained year after year, they do not go through that same ordeal again. So I look forward with great anticipation all the measures that are going to be put in place to ensure that these students are definitely taken care of. So that I believe that is a step in the right direction. As you are aware that this year, with the internal component of the exam, 67% of the total score was used, together with 33% of the MCT was used to ensure that placement took place into the secondary school. Of this, as Minister would have highlighted earlier, we had a registration of 1,872 students, and 1,743 students were placed in secondary schools. Now, each of our secondary schools received their quota of placed students for the year. The number retained 129, we would want to remind you that there is still hope. You still have another opportunity going forward. So don't believe that all is lost and that's the end for you. There is hope going forward. You have another opportunity to write the exam. And again, with structures being put into place, we are hopeful that in time to come, we would have zero retention of any student in our primary schools. That means ensuring that the programs are correct, and you've heard of a number of the initiatives that are taking place right now to ensure that we have that right. Now, one of the major issues here with the whole aspect of placement, and I'm happy that P.S. Handel would have also ensured and he would have spoken to the whole aspect of transfer and what can happen there. Now, we understand that at the ministry, we may not know every single child's situation prior to placement. We are not aware of everything. And that's why, yes, there are grounds for transfer. But we likewise have to be mindful of what it takes when it comes to transfer. You see, most of the times, lots of individuals may seek a particular institution, but we also have to take into consideration the capacity of a particular institution. Already, all of our schools have been filled. You might say, well, what are you saying? Yes, all of our schools have been filled. So, yes, you may want to transfer for good reasons, but can we fulfill that need? Yes and no. For example, let's assume a school can hold a total of 105 students, and you want to go to that school for good reasons. But the only way you may get a transfer into that school is barring that someone moves from this school to a next school for particular reasons. I would want you to pay close attention to some information I'm going to give you here when it comes to the grounds of transfer. 1. Change of residency of parents after the submission of placement forms, and the parents must submit supporting documentation. Note well, supporting documentation must be submitted. 2. Special accommodation for physically challenged students. So it might be where ramps might be the case, have to be installed, or transportation. Again, supporting information must be submitted. 3. Social issues. There are some students, because of probably where they live, or the environment, or the placement, there might be psychological and social issues that may pop up from time to time based on the school where they are placed. Please note that, again, documentation signed by a medical practitioner, education consultant, psychologist, all of these supporting details, again, must be presented before that student can be considered for transfer. And note well, all of these will take precedence over any other form of transfer. So, after these have been considered, and if there's available space, then others will be given consideration. If you have not submitted a transfer form, do not expect a transfer to be given. Additionally, something that the ministry would want us to note well, that some schools have already met the capacity. Therefore, the ministry will not facilitate any transfer into those schools. As I said, it can happen only if, let's assume I live in St. George, and you would have provided your supporting documentation, and you're saying, I am moving to St. Andrews. So now a space has been created in St. George because that child, that parent, they would have changed residency. So a space would have opened up. But look well and look carefully at the grounds for transfer and the persons who will be given priority. So I would want us to take that into consideration when it comes to the whole aspect of transfer. All right, I just wanted to spend some time on that area. Just before I leave, we would want to note that 93.1% of our students were placed into secondary schools this year. 93.1%. And in comparison to last year, where we had 92.4%. All right, so we, percentage-wise, and we would want to, if you would want to put it in real numbers now, last year, for example, we had 147 students being retained, whereas this year we had 129. Again, we're hoping that that number in time to come will go down to 0. There is no reason why a child should be kept back, and we would want to have a greater appreciation for a child being kept back sometimes and remaining in a particular grade for 1 year, 2 years. The psychological effect on that child, we have to do something about it. All right, so it is something that we have to continue working on. So at this time, if there are any other questions thereafter, we are going to entertain it. But this is where we are right now when it comes to the whole aspect of the placement into the secondary schools and also the terms for transfer and everything that goes with it.
Thank you so much. We do appreciate. Ms. Gertrude Niles, last but not least, Adult and Lifelong Learning Unit. Good morning to you.
Good morning. It is indeed a pleasure to be with my colleagues this morning to speak to all our listening public and to assure them that indeed the Ministry of Education is or will be doing something to address the issue of students' access to secondary education. We have listened to Mr. Mitchell giving a preview of the number of students who were retained, 129. And I think it's important to note that for many years we have not been doing anything to address that issue. And so we have to commend the Minister for her initiative and for putting members of her team in place to ensure that a program is developed to help all our students gain access to secondary education. What is critical at this time to note is that parents and students who were not placed will be given an opportunity to redeem themselves so that they will be able to enter that second phase of the educational journey. The intention is to work initially with that cohort, 129. And so we will start in August 2020, not 2021, 2020, to have an engagement with both parents and students. And you note my words, an engagement. Because the idea of learning or teaching or education for some connotes something different. So we want to embrace both parents and students in that initial engagement to ascertain what the issues are, that child's particular issue relative to why they did not attain that grade level to go on to secondary school. After that, an intense initial 6 months program will be initiated. Primarily, as we all know, the research shows that children do have problems in math and English. We will be doing the pre-test. We will be sharing the information. We will be working with them systematically in every single district to ensure that they are being engaged in a non-threatening environment. I'm using my language carefully because we have to give hope to those 129 students and their parents out there that the ministry will be implementing something, a program that will help your child to gain access to secondary school. I will be open to questions as the time goes on. But basically, that is the plan of the Ministry of Education. Thank you.
All right, so thank you very much, Ms. Gertrude Niles, and we just want to thank all the officials here from the Ministry of Education for all the information that you have provided for us this morning. Colleagues, the floor is now opened for question. Anybody ready with their questions as yet? Okay, while we await our colleagues, Rena, good morning. Are you ready? Rena, good morning. Rena, if you're hearing us, yes, go right ahead.
Okay, so I have a question for PS Andel as it relates to the e-learning. One of the issues that some parents are airing, and a couple of the teachers, is that it's already hard for students to be kept attentive in class. Having them in e-learning is proven to be difficult because sometimes they have TV close to them or some sort of distraction as it relates to that. What measures is the Ministry of Education trying to do to help? What sort of advice would you have for parents in that regard? And would you be rethinking anything as it relates to e-learning at this time because of this defect?
Thank you very much for your question. As a teacher for 14 years, I can speak to attention. And the cure for attention is interest. And I can tell you that our children, when it comes to technology, they are interested. A lot of them are even better at manipulating and using the technology better than even adults. Now, in the assessment of that, it is important for the individual teacher to look at the appropriateness of the content and its ability to attract and to retain attention. So it's something that we're going to look at. It's something that we're going to discuss at length with the educational practitioners so that we can retailer the content so that it can attract and hold attention. Some students do have learning disabilities or deficiencies when it comes to attention, so it is important that as the teacher, as the educator, that you take that into consideration and tailor your lessons or instruction to meet that deficiency. But generally, I can tell you that if the lessons are interesting, if it is tailored in such a way that it is short and impactful, most young persons, most children would pay attention.
Rena, just to
another question I have
Hold
is
a second, Rena.
directed to Minister for Education, Honorable Emmeline Pear. You spoke about the reconstruction of schools, infrastructure of schools, sorry. I didn't hear you mention anything about TAMCC, Grenada and Carriacou. Also, could you confirm, will school be opened in September? And if yes, have there been any protocols established for the reopening of school in September?
Okay, so just before I answer the second set of questions, just to complement what PS said earlier, the importance of making those lessons interesting, making the children want to learn. The training that he alluded to earlier was not just about manipulating the devices, because we did have a number of teachers we had to support in that area. It's not just about developing content, but also the trainers have gone beyond how to access videos, how to access additional material, how to formulate and design that so that the students would be impacted positively, but also the interest. So I just want to say this, that is not just about content, but also emphasis has to be placed on the right content and making that content such that the students are excited about the content. And I'm very positive that that would impact on their learning. As it relates to TAMCC, I just want to say this, that we are currently in a review stage right now. As you know, we've appointed a new chair of the council, Dr. Spencer Thomas. We've just appointed a new finance committee that is going to look immediately at the finance at the college. And as it relates to major projects, all other issues, we have a number of reports that we are looking at. And I just want to say this, we will be making some public statements very soon as it relates to the college specifically. So I would want to reserve that for then. However, I want to make mention of the Carriacou situation as it relates to the facility there. We do have some major concerns. We've identified some funding for repairs, and all of that, as I said, in a special package. We want to speak TAMCC in a very whole way, and I do not want to go off on a tangent on TAMCC. There's so much that we have to bring to the public's attention in terms of where we're going, and I want to give you the assurance that we are going to be doing that very, very soon. School reopening, and we would want to qualify that. So we did reopen school in the last term. It's a phased approach, and we targeted students who were preparing for examination. So in September, I expect that once things do not deteriorate to where it is right now, and we trust that that would not be the case, I believe we would have an expanded version of the reopening of school. I do not believe that all of our students will be back in its normal way of operation, but I do believe that we will be able to accommodate more students than we did accommodate for the preparation of exam. How that will be done, there will be another special press conference to explain all of those details. But what we want to ensure is that in September, teaching and learning will be as close to normal as it possibly can. So for the last 2 terms, we said no introduction of new concepts. For how long can we continue this? We are going to be returning to normal teaching of new concepts in September. The means through which we are going to do that, how we're going to facilitate, we are going to be having a special session to define that. And the role of all stakeholders, parents, community, how are we going to support students additionally?
Thank you, Minister. Rena, do you have any other questions?
I do, but I'm going to give the other colleagues to do so.
Okay, great. Linda Straker, good morning.
The first one is, can the minister explain some more about the special value-based education program and what makes it different to HFLE and other programs in school that already target skills for living? The second question is, the 65% laptops, which is specifically for secondary school, what specifically is the use of these laptops? Are they for doing research? Are they for taking notes? Are they for books? What specifically they would be used for? And then I saw, while I was going through one of the social media, I saw a parent ask whether the schools have now given them book lists. Would the minister encourage parents to buy books or to wait on the use of the laptops? Thank you for now.
Okay, so what we say, question of the day. So let me start with the easier one. I would say the values-based education program, what we want to do differently is to address the issue of the importance or the value that we attach to values-based education. So we want to look at things like who's teaching HFLE, right? And regionally, these are some of the discussion. What level of impact this is having on the quality of students that we are turning out. So how do we merge a lot of these things that we do and coordinate them better to ensure that we are getting better results, to ensure that people's conflict management skills would be improved when they leave in school, that people understand certain things and understand them differently because of that experience. How do we broaden that to ensure that we do not maybe operate in silos? So you have one sector doing this here, another sector doing that, but how do we combine all of that for maximum results? And I just want to say this. We have placed, in my opinion, a lot of emphasis on certain areas of our education system, and we have to move closer to create a greater balance. How do we ensure that students are far more prepared for the world of work, one, but to coexist in society, to exist in society? How do we prepare them for life in a greater way? And so there's a lot that we want to do, starting with the entire review of the system, starting with looking at what are those areas we want to strengthen. We have some cases, and just a good example of HFLE, where some people believe it's optional. So, you know, if there is space, for example, if there's an extra teacher, you know, and those things ought to be given far greater importance when we look at the child that we want to turn out of our education system. So, Linda, a lot to be said there, but of course, when we launch that program first week in September, we are going to be giving a lot more details on that. The laptops and tablets, and specifically what we have on island right now are tablets. But we do have laptops that are coming, but these laptops are primarily for teachers, right? So students will be receiving tablets, right? Of course, some teachers will have tablets as well because of how the system is set up for managing of the device that the student has. So I think I made reference before of the teacher having the capacity through the device to control what the students are looking at while they're going through a particular lesson. So what can that do? Of course, students would be able to do their assessments there. They'll be able to access the content there. They would be able to research there. A number of things that students would be able to do. But also for the teacher, the preparation of lessons, the access to resources, all of that, accessing MSTAR and other platforms that they can now use different resources to enhance teaching and learning in the classroom. So this to me is, for want of a better word, groundbreaking in terms of, I believe, the impact that this would have on our education system from September. And we want to maximize to ensure that our students and our teachers will indeed be better off in terms of what is it that we have as outcome in our education system. So that should complement and support what we already have. The book list. So different schools, I guess, would have different timelines, different dates by which they provide, but I can say all of my children already got their book lists from schools. So if a particular school did not, I guess they're in the process of disseminating that. Remember, this year is electronically, so it could mean that some particular school or schools did not yet provide. But there has been no instruction not to provide book lists. We expect that schools automatically, together with their report books, would attach those book lists. The Ministry of Education did not purchase additional books this year. And not just because of COVID and not just because of ebooks, a number of factors there resulting in that. And just to say that we will be circulating the books existing in the system in September. So each parent or each child will have to communicate with their school as it relates to the scheduled date for returning. And note I'm starting with returning, because if you don't bring back what you have, somebody else won't get. So every parent, and I want to encourage parents and make this special appeal, that the books you have, you find a special place in the house to secure them between now and the time that your school asks you to return those books. You may even want to go a little bit further to assist with strengthening them, covering them, preparing them for the next special child that will be receiving them. So I want to encourage parents, please secure those books for the date that your school asks you to return them. And of course, as they return, new students would be able to receive them. And this is what will happen for the school year 2020-2021, Linda.
Thank you, Minister. Linda, do you have another question? All right. I will have a question from social media. How will the ministry handle the assessment for students to move to higher forms, given that some may not have been dedicated to e-learning assignments due most likely to the lack of devices?
I want to just make one comment up this and then open if any other member of the panel want to add. We gave a commitment that we are very particular about children being left behind because of COVID-19. And so the program that Mrs. Niles spoke about that targets just those 129 persons, that would be for that period before school opens in September. Once we open in September, I anticipate that every student would have a diagnostic test done that would help to assess where exactly they are. And this must not be, I want to emphasize the shift, the paradigm shift that is taking place now. This must not be about what you missed during COVID-19. This must also be about where you are in relation to where you should be. So the statistics for years have been showing us, for example, a grade 2 child is not reading at the grade 2 level, or a grade 5 student is not reading at the grade 5 level. The point is this: you must now be enrolled in a special support program to ensure that when you get to grade 6, you don't end up in that 129 figure or statistics. We have to address those issues long before that child reach grade 6. And if we go back historically, go as way back as you can. For all of us who did common entrance, you think about those students who were crying the day that the results came out. So this is a point at which we say, and permit me to put it this way, enough is enough. Let us move on a different route as it relates to addressing. And the thing about this is that we do have the statistics, right? So you have the Tangerine and you have all of those things that assess the students. Action, action, action. What do we do with all those assessments that we do in school, and how do we ensure that our students move on?
Thank you. Linda, you have a follow-up question?
Yes, I do. My question had to do with the use of the devices. Can the minister tell us which software company and online publishing company that government has developed an arrangement with, a legal agreement with, for use of learning online and using the devices?
So you're speaking, Linda, outside of ebooks, you mean generally? To be a little more specific.
The use of the use of books online in general,
Okay.
because I haven't purchasing a device for my personal use is different to having an institution purchase collectively with the full intention of utilizing different softwares and so. I know a few years ago, government had to get in touch and had an agreement with Microsoft, for example, for the legal use of its software. Is the Ministry of Education or the Ministry of Legal Affairs engaged in any software developing company or online book publishing company to ensure that when we give the children the devices or the student, that whatever they're using, it is in agreement with the licensed developer?
Okay, so let me start first with what we have currently on those devices, which was the Fortuna Pix development. We have an arrangement with Fortuna Pix for ebooks right now. And of course, we also will be providing schools, parents with a listing of different sites, approved sites, and also open source material that would complement what we have on those platforms. We would also, through the MSTA platform, would also have material there. So what we are doing at this phase of things, Linda, is to ensure that for the secondary, we do have the ebooks from Fortuna Pix. The primary schools, we are discussing an approach for the primary schools going forward, because within a couple years, we want to ensure that all of our books are indeed local. Right, we want to ensure. And of course, we would be engaging our local publishers as well. But as it relates to accessing online, we currently have those ebooks from Fortuna Pix, but we also would be using a number of open source available material that, of course, we do have permission to use. PS, you may want to add to that, or you?
But specifically what the minister has presented is what the approach we're going to take. The Fortuna Pix arrangement is that we have licensed these 20 subject areas, and there are more than 20 books, but it is based on subject areas. And as she has alluded to the general public, that the primary school arrangement will be finalized shortly, and we will be informing the general public about that. But be assured that through open source and license, e-material would be available to our students.
Linda, is that it for now?
And can the minister tell us the cost for that to the ministry now?
So off my head of Linda, I don't have the total cost, but PS might be able to give an approximate, as in total we've spent thus far on devices. We should be able to give an approximate of the millions we've committed to that so far.
In regards to the Fortuna Pix arrangement, we have spent so far $5 million. And
All right.
yes, and we are going through the other mediums and costing those, so the final cost will be presented also. But as of now, we have spent $5 million for the Fortuna Pix arrangement.
And just to say, Linda, as you've noticed, we are giving updates as we go along. So once we cross this phase, we will, of course, as I just did with infrastructure, give you all of those totals so that you can have all that information available.
All right, Linda, if you have another question, let's just give somebody else a chance. So we go to Rikisha, St. Louis. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Minister Pear and the members of your team. I have two questions, but on a point of clarity. P.S. Andel, you spoke about the PDF submission of the forms not really the best right now. So parents who are working with the July 10th deadline, who have already submitted their transfer form, are they expected to do a new one via the new online medium you mentioned, or are we speaking going forward to parents who have not yet submitted? And two, to Minister Pear, the summer program. After the applications have been received and they are inspected and approved, what kind of structure are you anticipating for the program to take this year, taking into consideration the COVID-19 regulations? Will there be restrictions or limitations to outdoor exercises like field trips, etc.?
So I'll answer that, and then PS, you can do the other question to you. So we're speaking about 129, and we're speaking about students throughout Grenada, Carriacou. I don't know for PT Martinique. I'm not sure we had any student in PT Martinique. So Grenada, Carriacou. So when you spread that out nationally, you have pretty much small numbers per parish or per district, right? And so we're not concerned about the coming together of those students in terms of numbers, because that would be very, very manageable. And that is precisely why we took that decision that during this period, we would only focus on that cohort of students, that group of students, to ensure that we don't have too many students out at the same time. So different batches for other target groups will be in September. So what will happen is that those students would be engaged individually first, as Ms. Niles outlined, with their parents. Proper assessment would be done, and those might end up being not just academic. Might be economics too, right? It might be a number of factors, but what we are committing is that those 129 students left to the horse wanting to drink and the horse actually coming to the well, we're going to provide all the water. We're going to provide all the soap. We're going to even hold their hand, and we're going to make sure that we actually give all the necessary support. And mind you, I must add here that that support that we are talking about, let us not get it wrong, that is additional support. Because in our schools, we do have persons who provide support to those persons. We are saying that we've recognized that there's need for extra additional support. So it means that these students going forward will be engaged after school hours, regular school hours, will be engaged during the weekend in some cases. We want to give them all the possible support. I can't remember the word that Mrs. Niles used. Was it non-intimidating? So non-threatening, right? And I can only conclude that she said this. This is not a program where we're going to be with a stick over people or with a belt, do this, you get this wrong. We want to make sure that the students at the end of the day would be happy to be part of this program. They would feel an improvement in their self-esteem. They would feel loved and appreciated. And most importantly, they would be able to say, yes, I can.
So Rikisha, my response to you is that the forms already submitted will be honored. So the new system is for parents who have not submitted any form presently. So the old format is being honored, and then the new format is for the persons wanting to access transfer information.
Thank you. Rikisha, that's it from you? All right, let's go back to Rena. You have another. All right, great. You have another question, Rena?
Yes, I do.
Go ahead.
Minister, on the matter of summer schools, before persons or private persons would have had their summer schools within these months coming or these weeks coming, would other private individuals be able to have their summer school this year? And if yes, would they be able to go about the same protocol as established now? Also, is there a piece of land that was identified for the construction of the St. Andrews Anglican Primary School? I know that was an issue before. Another question I wanted to ask, I don't know if this follow on your grounds, but as it relates to daycares, are they allowed to be opened? And are there proper protocols established for them?
Let me start with summer program. Any person, any organization in Grenada will be eligible to have a summer program this year once the facility has been approved by the Ministry of Health. So they would come, look at what you have, how you plan to do it, what would be the social distancing, all of that. And you must present some kind of plan, what are the compulsory things, because every summer program will have to follow the protocols that currently exist for schools in operation. So the distance that students can sit, for example, the engagement between teacher and student, all of that would apply. So we're saying that any person, any organization can indeed have a summer program this year. No restriction on who. The restriction would be that you ensure that all of the students who will be coming to that summer program will be safe, and that you've put special arrangements in place to guarantee their safety, or to, as much as possible, guarantee their safety. As it relates to St. Andrews Anglican Primary, as you know, most of the parents of students attending that school, the general public, seem to feel very strongly about that school remaining in its current location. I have always said safety above preference in that regard. However, we have received the assurance from those who are in the design stage that it is possible to do a design that will ensure the safety and security of all those who use that facility. I do not want to close off here with a statement that says, yes, this is where the school will be ultimately. This is what we are working towards. But of course, we have to at some point get the costing of that design. And I believe that is when that final decision will be made. Can we afford to have the school at that location? So we're working with all stakeholders and we're working feverishly to ensure that the school remain at that facility. But that would be hinged, I believe, in the final analysis to what is it going to cost to build a school that is safe for that location. As it relates to daycares, that protocol has been reviewed by the COVID-19 committee. And let me say that as it relates to the opening of daycares, the government of Grenada is extremely cautious based on the nature of the operation of a daycare, whether that should be one of those areas that we open or leave as closed. However, serious consideration has been given to the number of workers who are dependent on a daycare facility to return to work or to make a living. And as a result of that, we have taken the decision that yes, we can proceed to open daycares, but under very, very strict guidelines and protocols. It means, therefore, that any person, any organization in Grenada to open a daycare facility must first be inspected, must first pass that inspection from the Ministry of Health. Not just pass that inspection by Ministry of Health, but thereafter the Ministry of Social Development, under which daycares fall. They do have responsibility for management and supervision of daycares in Grenada. And they would give that final go-ahead to any such organization or individual. So I do not want any person to be of the impression that they can just proceed to open a daycare. The Ministry of Health must visit and assess, and the Ministry of Social Development must be comfortable that this should proceed or that particular facility should proceed. So this is the particular stage at which we are at. We are going to make a special announcement through Ministry of Social Development in that regard.
Thank you, Minister. Do you have another one, Rena, or that's it?
Yes, I had another one. Minister, as it relates to the special need, the teachers that are presently engaged in studying in special needs, are they in the School for Special Education or would they be placed in the at-risk student program? Also, just to clarify, all the arrangements made for the public schools stands as well for the private schools. I just want to know that for the summer vacation.
Yes, of course. It really includes any institution, and we do have private and public, and it also includes private persons. So persons like yourself in a community may decide that you want to organize a special program to help disadvantaged students. We do have a lot of that, and we are quite comfortable with that. Once the Ministry of Health says they are comfortable with the systems in place to facilitate. So you must know ahead how many students you can accommodate based on the size of the building and all of those things. The special needs training, two things I'll say on this. These are persons mainly already in the system, right? But I want to say that in September, we will be reviewing as we launch our policy on special education. We just completed that. Very, very positive stakeholder involvement, and we want to be moving full speed ahead, not just to have a wonderful policy. And I saw most persons speaking very well of the content of the policy, but we want to move aggressively to implement that policy. So in the new school year, we expect that there will be some movement, some changes as it relates to strengthening for special needs unit. It would include increase in program areas. What do we do? What support, additional support we can provide? And I just want to say that those teachers, of course, with the additional skills and knowledge they are acquiring now, would be able to give even greater support to all of the initiatives going forward.
Somebody's asking, why is MSTAR training the only professional development session for teachers this year as opposed to the usual professional development sessions in the first 2 weeks?
Well, I would say two things. We're not in normal times, and so we do not want to bring hundreds of teachers at a particular location in any place. And so whatever we do this year would have been online anyway, right? But this year, we want to ensure that what we're doing is really preparing for September. I do not know if everyone understands what is going to happen in September. We will be moving to new content. And that would be through a blended approach. It would include in classroom, it would include out of classroom. And so preparation, readiness is critical. And that is why that is our priority area of support this particular period. We also train in trainers. We also train in people who will be assigned to specific schools. So every school in September will have an e-learning champion, somebody who would be providing support to teachers and students in the new school year. So that is why our focus has been e-learning. PS, you might want to add on that.
Yes. In regards to the e-learning champions, their role really would be to provide service to the end user. Now, when you are engaging an e-learning platform, there will be a number of issues that will arise in regards to the management of the platform itself, in regards to the content that is on the platform, and then the support mechanism needed for the platform to run smoothly. The e-learning champions and the junior e-learning champions would be the point person at the school where all end users. So for instance, if you have a school like GBSS with the amount of boys, I can't remember the figure off my head, but you will be past 500, 800, you will have 800 devices there, plus the teachers' devices. So that is mean 800 issues that you may be faced with, and the teachers' issues. So there must be a mechanism, a governing mechanism and support mechanism that resolve issues in a timely manner. We are also looking to have an app that is designed for dealing with issues. So the end user can put their information into that app. It goes directly to the e-learning champions, and they provide what we call a tech support for the end user. And it is critical that we train these persons. So we're having over 90 persons, junior e-learning champions, assigned to every school. So not 90 to every school, 19 island-wide. And each school would have a junior e-learning champion that would be partnered with 2 e-learning champions at the school. Some schools are big, so we may have to get more e-learning champions and junior e-learning champions for those schools. But that support mechanism would be at the school to provide that support. Not only that, you have devices. So we also would be providing maintenance of those devices at the ministry. We have replacement device. So if a device goes down, then that student would be given a replacement device while their device is being serviced. And there's a ticketing system for all of this and a recording system. And you must have support people to provide the support for the ticketing. So you see where I'm going with this? This thing is not all about just a device in the hand of the child. It is about the support mechanism in place to ensure that the platform works and the devices are up and running to access the platform. So it's a big initiative, it's a complex one, and we are going through the processes of refining all of the kinks and making sure that in September there must be an operational system, functional. That is why the word is train and train and train until we get it right.
Thank you very much, PS. Colleagues, we're getting ready to wrap this up. Anybody has a quick question? Nobody? All right, I think we've exhausted our questions, so I'll give you the opportunity. I'll start with you, Honorable Minister. Any quick parting words you might have to say?
My parting word would really be to recognize and commend the team at the Ministry of Education. I want to first, as it relates to exams or placement results 2020, to especially recognize the examination unit. This would not have been normal times for them. Traditionally, we get the results from CXC, and we just do the final processing and we disseminate. This year really had to be a different year with regards to the circumstances, and I want to commend and applaud them for their hard work. The Permanent Secretary and team at the Ministry of Education, I'm quite sure when you listen to PS, you would understand a lot of work is taking place in the engine room. And I can tell you for a fact, there are people in that Ministry of Education, inclusive of that Permanent Secretary next to me, who sometimes spends the entire night leaving the ministry 6 in the morning and returning by 8, 9 o'clock. And this is not just one person, but we do have a team of persons at the ministry who have been working aggressively. I want to commend the CEO and the work that she has been doing. Sometimes we look at things and it appears to be very simple and it appears to be not much effort. But when you get into the engine room, I sometimes, feel for her family, the hours, late nights that is spent on the job. A lot has been happening. We've been responding to COVID-19, but at the same time trying to keep all of the wheels rolling in all of the other areas related to education. And I just want to recognize all of our education officials at the Ministry of Education, but of course on the ground, all the people who make it possible for the implementation, our principals, teachers, our denominational board, all of our stakeholders, parents, persons in the community, our religious sector, and the support we've been receiving from them. What we've achieved really has been a true representation of collaboration, and I just want to express sincerest appreciation to all concerned.
Thank you, Minister. PS, Kevin Handel, any parting words from you?
All I can say is let us continue the partnership. Let us continue to support each other. Let us continue to be, as Grenadians, open as we are, providing feedback. And we are open as a ministry to receive and to make the necessary adjustment where possible. I believe that at the end of this, we'll look back at the journey and say it was a challenging one, but it was a journey worth traveling. So thank you very much.
Thank you, PS. Mrs. Finley, Mr. Mitchell, Ms. Niles.
Okay, thank you again. Just one bit of information I think that we missed to present earlier on is the status with regards to the CSEC exams and the format. Okay, secondary school principals did receive that information yesterday. There were some hitches in the transshipment of the devices that we were expecting to use to support the e-testing. And regrettably, we were informed by the suppliers just over the weekend that those devices would not get here on time. So for this year's exam, we are reverting to a totally paper-based format. Okay, so for those who had the apprehension about not having access to a device adequately to prepare, it's no longer any e-tests, but solely paper-based. So it was important for parents and students to be aware of it. And we do apologize for what inconveniences were caused. In terms of students at the secondary school, we heard about the support for students at the primary level. At the secondary level as well, we are going to be moving forward very, very strategically to ensure that learning for students at the secondary level also take on a new approach, one which draws to a great extent on the softer skills. And also we are strategizing to ensure that students are monitored throughout and that there are mechanisms in place to catch them before they fall through the cracks at critical points within their secondary journey. Definitely by Form 3, we should have a clear picture where children are and that support that is needed to carry them over the tide to have success at the CSEC level. So help is on the way, hope is alive, and we have to continue to collaborate. All stakeholders on board. We're going to move those mountains that are currently before us. Yes.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mitchell.
Right, thank you once again. And I would just want to remind us, the general public, parents, teachers, everyone, that every stage and every phase of a student's life is important. Why am I saying this? If you look at what took place this year, and the format we had to use the MCTs and the internal SBA scores for placement. Sometimes we only see the involvement at the end point, at grade 6 and at graduation, also at Form 5. And I'm saying this to say that every single step, every grade in the student's life is important. So do not take the MCTs at grade 2 for granted, neither at grade 4 or 5, because these standardized exams, they inform us in such a way. They tell us where your child is. They cause us to look at the data and predict what can happen. It tells us how much accomplishment. So it gives us quite a bit of information. So we want you to pay particular interest in those things and be involved. And I just want to say that we should continue, as PS would have highlighted there, with the partnership. It is a partnership, and it is important that that partnership with school, parents, ministry, central ministry, and all key stakeholders continue to happen in order to build the kind of country and citizens that we're looking forward to. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm going to piggyback on some words from Mr. Mitchell. While we take a look at the data and we predict what is going to happen, the remediation program has just begun. And we have to look at it as the act of facilitating a correction for students who started out on the journey towards becoming a secondary school attendee, but have encountered many challenges and faltered or veered off course. We will do it. Parents, be assured. It will be done. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Honorable Emmeline Pear, Minister for Education, Human Resource Development, Religious Affairs and Information, Permanent Secretary Mr. Kevin Andel, Chief Education Officer Mrs. Angela Finley, the Testing and Measurement Officer Mr. John L. Mitchell, and Adult and Lifelong Learning Unit Mrs. Gertrude Niles. We do thank you so much. Colleagues, we thank you as well for all of you who have asked your questions. We do thank you for all of you looking on social media, and of course on the channel. We do thank you so much. I'm Leslie Ann Johnson. Have a great day, everybody.